Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And hopefully you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So we're going to talk about the New York Mets here. In particular, the Mets core players that they've had here for the last several years. As you know, the Mets core over the last few years has been Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, and Edwin Diaz. Now, what's interesting about them is they've only won one playoff game in that time. So since the 2019 season, the Mets have had 3 playoff games with this group and 1 win. And they lost that series against the Padres. When they had a chance to get to the postseason in 2019, they just didn't make it because of bad closer and Edwin Diaz. He cost them the ability to get the postseason that year because they had a good year. They won 86 games. In 2022, they had a great year. Win-wise, they won 101 games. It is the second most wins in the history of the Mets franchise. And they didn't make it that year. Obviously, they did not play well in September. And when Diaz was pretty much a non-factor because the Mets weren't in too many games to where they had a lead late. And the Braves... And in October series against the Braves, the Mets did not show up. They didn't win any of the games. They played another series before the end of the season was over. And then they played the Padres and they lost 2 out of 3 in the wild card series. So this group has not been very successful. And, you know, we've seen core groups before be successful here with the Mets. Just recently, we saw the Mets of 2015. They had Jacob deGrom, Matt Harvey, there was Syndergaard, primarily with Jeurys Familia as the closer, get to the World Series. With helping veterans like David Wright and Daniel Murphy and Curtis Granderson. But that was that core group. The only problem with that group, obviously, is they didn't last very long because all the injuries to the pitchers, to these young starting pitchers, just absolutely destroyed them. Prior to that, we had the 99-2000 Mets, which had John Olerud, Al Leiter, Mike Piazza, obviously the centerpiece, Ron Ventura, Edgar Alfonso, Ray Ordonez, Johnny Franco. You know, that was a very solid, strong core. Another team that went to the World Series. Should have won that World Series, so should have 2015. And then prior to that, we know the great Met team with the 80s with Gary Carter, Keith Hernandez, Del Strawberry, Dwight Gooden. That was their core. I mean, you had some of the best players in the game were the core players of that great Met team. Now, this Met team this current Met team obviously has not played well. They're 8 games under 500 after splitting the first 2 games at Citi Field after the Mets have returned back from London. And now you have a situation now over the next month. The Mets will have to decide what they want to do with Mets first baseman Pete Alonso. The question will be will the Mets keep Pete or trade Pete? To keep Pete or trade Pete, that's what it comes down to. When you look at the Mets rosters of the Steve Cohen era, there have been 5 constants across all 4 years. You have Lindor, you have Edwin Diaz, like I said, Alonso, Nimmo, and Jeff McNeil. And of that group, obviously, the one guy that doesn't have a long-term contract is Pete Alonso. Pete doesn't have a contract. So what are the Mets going to do here? And Pete's not had a very good start. His batting average is low for his career. His RBI total is not where it should be, even though he's got a lot of home runs. His home run total is probably going to finish with 35 home runs. But his RBI total is not very high, which is a concern of mine, that he's not doing a good job with men's scoring position. That's an obvious thing if you've watched. And if the Mets find themselves not playing well or continue to play poorly, now they picked it up this month in the month of June, but they've had a disastrous May. They were 9-19 in May. The one thing that this core has shown us is that they will have a month where they disappear. We saw this in 2019. I think the month of June was a bad month. We saw it in 2021. August was a disaster. In 2022, September wasn't great. 2023, we saw June. I mean, they had a June swoon like we've never seen before. I mean, it's one of the worst June swoons, the worst Junes in the history of the ball club. And we had this May. Now, the Mets trade Pete. They're basically saying that cutting their losses with this group. And there will be very difficult choices that'll need to be made with the other guys in this group, because you have guys that have, quite frankly, have untradeable contracts. In particular, Francisco Lindor, Brandon Nimmo. Edwin Diaz has 3 more years on his contract, but obviously he is a commodity. He's a guy that you can get a lot for him, and he's coming back on Thursday, so we'll see how he pitches. I think he's going to pitch a lot better, because he was doing very hard in Brooklyn when they, after this sort of 10 days, to sort of take a breather, heal up his arm, and get ready to go. Now, as we look forward to the rest of the season, and we look forward to this schedule, and we see now these younger players. Look at Mark Vientos, how he has evolved, how he has taken a major step forward in his development as a player. That's a big thing. I mean, his batting average, his OPS is the 3rd highest in the major leagues. The 3rd highest in the major leagues, folks, behind 2 other players. Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves and Shohei Ohtani of the Dodgers. So he has the 3rd highest OPS in the last month or so, whatever it is, since he's been back to the majors. So he has played great. I mean, his defense has been okay. He's got a good arm. Whether he's a long-term answer at third base, I don't know. His hands are a little wonky, but his arm's very strong. But his hands aren't great. But he's got a good arm. But that bat, boy, he looks better than I ever thought he would be. I always felt that he was a 250-something hitter. But looking at how he has performed over the last few weeks, I think he could be much, much better than he has shown so far. It's amazing how hard work can get you into a better situation. And it's very exciting. I'm very excited for him, because I really stuck my neck out for him, because I know so many people like Brett Beatty. I'm not a big fan of Brett Beatty from what I've seen. And obviously we got Francisco Alvarez, who's returned from the injured list after that tough injury to his, the ligament in his thumb. And nothing more exciting than him. I mean, he's going to be the leader of this group. He's going to be the leader of this team. Are the Mets establishing a new core here with these younger guys? And the Mets have to get younger. This team is so old, folks. We all know that. They're the oldest team in the major leagues. And it hasn't worked. With Alvarez coming in here, with Vientos coming in here, this gives this team a little more energy. Now, the Mets have prospects that aren't elite prospects, but they're guys that are probably going to be everyday players. We're still waiting on Drew Gilbert. He's been injured. The pitching staff, the pitching is going to get better. Christian Scott's going to be coming back. He's part of that core. Brand Spruitt is coming into his own in the minor leagues. Guys that are getting developing very quickly. Nolan McLean is getting a lot of experience in Double-A. The Met pitching has really developed down there in the minor leagues this year. You can see the sort of the development of the Mets pitching lab. And, of course, just going back to the position players, the Mets are extremely excited for Luis Angel Acuna. Even though the numbers don't show it, that's what the word is, and the rumor is that the Mets are very excited by his abilities, by his development as a player. Now, Jeb Williams is a disappointment because he got hurt his wrist, and he had to get surgery. He's probably not going to play at all this year. And he's not making it to the major leagues this year. This is very disappointed for him, and very disappointed for me and for you, because I think we were all so excited to hear about him and see him play. So you have to ask yourselves now, are the Mets getting ready to bring in this new core group of Mets for coming in, sort of transitioning? We know this is a transition year. We know the Mets have talked a lot about this being a transitionary year. Maybe we're starting to see the beginnings of it with these younger guys. And we can't forget about Ronnie Mauricio, who's injured all year. He's going to be back next year. And everybody loves Ronnie. Everybody loves him. Okay? Let me tell you something. I do a video on Ronnie Mauricio on the Prospect Hut. More people gravitate towards him. And he's so exciting. So he will be a major addition going into next year. And you should be excited for that. I'm excited to see him play again, because we didn't get a chance to see him that much. We saw in the last month of last season, he has a lot of ability, but obviously he has to be more disciplined. But at the same time, his lack of discipline is what makes him great. But he's going to be very exciting to see come back. He's a very good defender too, and very, very fast on the base path. So, but are we getting ready to see a new core of Met players? I can't forget about this Mets core. David Wright, Jose Reyes team. Even though that team didn't win, they did win a division. They won a lot of games. They were disappointing at the end, but they were a very good team. They had Carlos Beltran there, Carlos Delgado. You know, it's a shame that Pedro got hurt. It's a shame that El Duque got hurt. They probably would have went to the World Series. But that was another team that had a very good core, but wasn't strong enough. But that's how it is. Anyway, let me know what you think about this video. And, of course, if you keep a comment, put a comment in this video. Let me know what you think about this Mets core that might be developing. And thank you for watching this video. Have a good day. Subscribe to the Baseball Hut, and I'll see you later.